Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for checking out my show, Coin Stories, where I get to hear from the leading voices in Bitcoin, financial markets and investing, political structures, philosophy, and more. Please make sure you're subscribed to the show. And if you're watching this on YouTube, like the video so more people see it, and hit that notifications button so you don't miss out on any new content. This podcast does not provide financial advice. It is for educational and entertainment purposes only. So make sure to do your own research before making any investment decision and be aware of your risk tolerance. I'm able to produce this show thanks to my sponsors, and I'm very picky about who I choose to partner with. So I hope you take the time to listen to the ad reads throughout the show. All right, now to my first partner, where I buy my Bitcoin, Swan. I partnered with Swan because it is a Bitcoin-only company focused on helping people save for their future and self-custody their Bitcoin, not trade it. You can start a direct deposit to take advantage of Bitcoin as a savings technology and learn how to take it off the exchange. Swan's mission is to educate 10 million future Bitcoiners through free resources and media projects like Hard Money. Swan also offers retirement planning with an IRA, tax loss harvesting, home equity conversion, and a white glove private client service. I use Swan to dollar cost average every day. That's right. I deposit a little bit every day that's equivalent to what I might spend on a meal so that I add to my future nest egg and lower my yearly cost basis. To learn more and get $10 in free Bitcoin when you sign up, head to swanbitcoin.com/Natalie Brunell. Welcome back to another episode of Coin Stories. We are at Bitcoin and Lightning for Corporations at Microstrategy World 2023 in Orlando. So grateful to have with me my most popular guest, of course, Michael Saylor, Executive Chairman and founder of Microstrategy. Michael, thank you so much for having me here.
Excited to be here.
Well, okay, let's talk about Bitcoin for corporations, because you were the first CEO of a publicly listed company that put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Was it a winning strategy?
Yeah, it's worked out really, really well for us. Since we started, our enterprise market value has gone from about $600 million to more than $6 billion. So we've 10x the enterprise value of the company. If we trace our performance back to August of 2020 when we adopted a Bitcoin strategy, Bitcoin's been the #1 performing asset of all the possible treasury assets. If you contrast it to the S&P index or NASDAQ or gold or silver or bonds, you couldn't have done better than to have selected Bitcoin. And MicroStrategy's stock has actually outperformed Bitcoin as of just a few days ago. So I think Bitcoin was up like 140%, and MicroStrategy is up a bit more than that. So I would say it's definitely been a winning treasury strategy. And maybe more to the point, our choice was we either sit in sovereign debt. We could have held a bunch of treasury bonds, and they were yielding 1%, 2%, 0% for a while. Right now, the 30-year Treasury bond is yielding 3.6%. We could have done that, but of course, that's not really compelling for public company investors. Nobody wants to invest in a company that's holding tons of cash or tons of Treasury bonds, because from their point of view, cash is never going to outperform the S&P index, at least they don't expect it to. And they could own treasury bonds themselves. So by us adopting Bitcoin, we were able to tap into an asset which has been appreciating it in excess of 50% for the past 3 years. And 50% is better than 3%. But we also were able to plug our balance sheet into the crypto economy. And because we plugged into Bitcoin, that meant that MicroStrategy as a stock serves as an institutional on-ramp for other investors. And if you're a hedge fund or you're an investor and you have billions of dollars and you have a mandate to invest in securities, you can't buy Bitcoin even if you wanted to. You may not be able to per your mandate, and if you wanted to, it might take you 6 months to a year to set up the account, and then it's you're investing in a commodity. And as you know, if I bought a commodity on a crypto exchange, it would be challenging for me to figure out what the custody situation is. and I can't borrow money to buy it, and I can't borrow against it so easily. So if you're an institutional investor and you wanted Bitcoin exposure, you could buy our stock. You could buy it on the NASDAQ through your broker-dealer. You can borrow against it. You can borrow to buy it. It's a security, not a commodity. And so what would be a 12-month, very, very difficult process and very expensive process becomes maybe a 12-minute or even a 120-second process. So it turned out that it worked out really well for us as a company, but also it created a compelling opportunity for all of our investors, and it made us unique in the public company sphere. So yeah, been a big success.
Well, given that there are a lot of regulatory developments and there's soon going to be more accounting changes happening that will probably make it easier for companies to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet, what's the landscape that you see? Because we're here with a lot of big brand name corporations people have heard of. What will it take for them to put Bitcoin on their balance sheets?
I think the big milestones for other big public companies to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet will be FASB's adoption of fair value accounting, and we're expecting something definitive there toward the end of this year. That'll be big because that means when, if you have 100 million in Bitcoin and it trades up 50%, then you'll book a $50 million investment gain. And if it trades down, you'll have investment loss. But it will simplify the accounting, clarify the accounting, and allow you to reap investment gains as well as investment losses. And so that'll be a big deal. I think that right now the SEC has an initiative to bring crypto exchanges into regulatory compliance. And I think as those exchanges start to register with the SEC, that'll be a big deal and a big milestone forward. I think that that'll open up the path and the door for Bitcoin spot ETFs, and that'll be a big deal. And I think as we see more guidance coming from the FDIC and the Treasury on how banks can custody Bitcoin, I think that'll be a big deal. So I think those milestones are all ahead of us, but I think we can expect them all to come in time, and the writing is on the wall. So as each of those takes place, then I think you'll see more and more corporations adopting Bitcoin as a treasury asset.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the Lightning Network, because I know your company has an exciting announcement about that. I really liked the slide that Michael Rihani from Cash App had up where he explained the Lightning Network in a simple way, right? Before it was the internet, it was the base layer. The layer on top was email, and it allowed us to transfer information easily in this open source protocol. And now we have Bitcoin as the base layer and Lightning as that secondary layer to allow for secure and fast transactions. So for people that maybe are not as familiar, what is the Lightning Network to you, and what is MicroStrategy's Lightning strategy?
I think that the Lightning Network represents an open, permissionless protocol for secure transactions worldwide. So if you want to integrate the payment networks of 100,000 different companies in every country on Earth, and you want to allow them all to interoperate and move money at the speed of light and program the money and build intelligence in the transactions and in authentications, then you need some protocol that they all share. And of course, Lightning is that protocol. Right now, the way that money moves is on a credit network run by banks. So if I wanted to take $100 and I wanted to send it to you, I would probably pay a 2 to 3% fee, and it would take 45 days to settle. So if that $100 moves 40 times, it'll take about 5 to 6 years, and the banks will have all the money and you'll have none of the money. So the money disappears and it takes 6 years to move. And the Lightning Network is a protocol that allows the money to move 40 times in about a minute, and you get to keep the money. So what it represents is a technology breakthrough, but it's not just a technology to move the money 1 million times faster and 1,000,000 times cheaper. But it also is an open, permissionless protocol, and that means a bunch of entrepreneurs in South Africa can create an application on the weekend that works with an application running in Nigeria, that works with a bank running in Tokyo, that works with another retailer in Istanbul, and that'll work with someone in New York, and that'll work with 100 Silicon Valley startups, and they all can figure out how to integrate that protocol into their mobile app, into their website, into their product, into their service. And I think the point Rouhani made, which is very compelling, is without SMTP, there's no way for all the email systems to interoperate, and yet today everybody can create an email integration into their application, and that's why billions and billions of people can talk to each other. Lightning represents the protocol that allows billions and billions of people to transact with each other. And clearly, it's got to be instant final settlement, it's got to be programmable, but it can't be proprietary. What we learned is that the proprietary protocols of Digital or IBM or Microsoft, they didn't succeed. It was the open protocols that were available to everyone in the world, and the reason why is because they're ethical. Nobody owns them, no one's cashing in on them, and because they're permissionless, they're open to everybody, and that means that people will trust them. And trust is critical when you need to get 100 million companies to work with each other in every country, because at the end of the day, the only thing that everybody can agree to trust is a protocol that everyone shares and no one controls. And that's what Lightning represents to the future of money.
Right, and I know you've said before that Bitcoin is the world's biggest and most important trust network. And talking a little bit about trust and something else people are worried about in the future as far as open source, open AI, and whether that will truly be something that is open and censorship resistant. Because now people are sending videos, creating deep fakes, and they're wondering, did this person actually send this to me? And so I know that you have some thoughts on how Bitcoin can actually help verify and prove identity and allow you to cryptographically sign for pieces of information so that the person receiving it on the other end knows that it can be trusted. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Sure. I think that the promise of AI is that this digital intelligence can do incredibly intricate things as well as or better than actual human beings. But one of the challenges of it is that means that you can spin up a billion fake AI accounts on Twitter or YouTube or Facebook that are more interesting and more engaged than the actual human beings are that they replace. And those AIs can pass the CAPTCHAs or the proof of humanity test. And so that means that we can no longer rely upon free accounts that are not cryptographically secured or monetarily secured. So the solution that Lightning offers and the solution that Bitcoin offers is the idea that someone can create an identity and they can post a security deposit, say $20 or some 100,000 Satoshis. And then once you posted that deposit, you can cryptographically sign that credential and then use that credential as your verification to cross the iMessage network or the Twitter network or the YouTube network or a Microsoft network or a Facebook network. And you can integrate those networks together. So you can integrate the blue checks from all those networks together. You can log in and authenticate as a real person onto that network. And in many cases, if there is no friction, then you open up the door for AI-driven toxicity. If there's no friction for me to comment on your post in Twitter, then 800,000 fake bots can comment and they can create any impression they want. So the way to create that friction is to require some minor deposit. Maybe it's a micropayment, like 100 Satoshis. Maybe it's a deposit of security that guarantees that you're not going to launch a phishing attack on me or a cyber attack on me. So when you introduce that small deposit, let's say $10 to move through cyberspace, it's de minimis for a human being because they post $10 of Bitcoin once in their life. But if I wanted to launch 1 billion bots at you, it would cost me $10 billion to do it. So when you create that little bit of friction, you create consequence and truth and integrity in cyberspace. And if you introduce that across all these social media, you can use it to clean up the phishing and the scamming and the toxicity. And you have this other very interesting promise of Bitcoin, which is Bitcoin's the world's most secure computer network. So if I wanted to inscribe a document, let's say my last will and testament, I could inscribe that document and encrypt it and then place it on the Bitcoin network. I could digitally sign it with my private key. It would be distributed to hundreds of thousands of nodes around the world. It would be impossible to squeeze off of the network for 1,000 years. Something will go on for hundreds or thousands of years. So I'm cryptographically burning it into the network. And then I'm guaranteed to be able to send that message anywhere in the world because Bitcoin is a nation-state resistant cyber network. If I gave you $100 billion and you had 4 years, and you spent that entire 4 years with that 100 billion trying to build hash power to attack the network, you could somewhat slow down my message, but you couldn't stop my message after 4 years and $100 billion. So Bitcoin it's a way to inscribe truth forever. It's a way to convey truth, message it anywhere. And then finally, a decade after Satoshi mined Bitcoin, Satoshi could prove that they're the owner of those wallets by signing a message instantly. And so 100 years from now, or 50 years from now, or 20 years from now, someone could prove that they are the ones that logged that last will and testament or that document cryptographically on the Bitcoin network. And so that makes Bitcoin the most trustworthy truth network in the world. And the promise of AI is I can create anything I can imagine, and yet the scary, terrifying part of AI is that people can actually create videos of Michael Saylor saying anything they want me to say,
right,
that sounds like me, that looks like me. And so the question really will be, in 10 years, how will I cryptographically prove that I said it and that I meant it? And I think that in that regard, you can see the real power of a network like Bitcoin, where you can prove you said it, you can prove you own it. Obviously, one important thing to prove you own is your money.
Right.
And that was the first application of Bitcoin. But I think that the world is waking up to the benefits of the Bitcoin network as the ultimate cybersecurity network and cyber truth network. And entrepreneurs are going to start to see that there are myriad applications using Bitcoin and using Lightning to cross-integrate truth, integrity, authentication, authenticity in many cyber domains Many of them are related to money, but others are going to be related to registry or authenticity and integrity, and I think the world needs that more than ever today.
It's time for a quick break to hear these messages from my partners. First up, Bitcoin Conference 2023. The world's largest Bitcoin conference is returning to Miami Beach from May 18th to May 20th. Day one is Industry Day with a focus on business-minded panels and discussions, plus top-tier networking opportunities. General admission days 2 and 3 are open to all pass holders and feature panels, keynotes, and workshops with speakers like Michael Lewis, Michael Saylor, Jack Mallers, Lynn Alden, Arthur Hayes, and more. Plus some exciting new additions like the inaugural Bitcoin Games and the Mining Village, and the return of Pitch Day. I highly recommend this conference. It's what launched my career. And if you want to come, just head to b.tc/conference and use the code HODL, HODL, for 10% off. I'll see you in Miami Beach. Next up, Fold. Fold is the best Bitcoin rewards debit card and shopping app in the world. You can earn Bitcoin on everything you purchase, from Amazon to groceries to sprucing up your wardrobe with Fold's Bitcoin Cashback debit card. And you can win free Satoshis every day, or even play for the chance to win a whole Bitcoin by spinning the daily wheel and the purchase rewards wheel. And now on Fold, you can buy Bitcoin directly and earn even more incentives and rewards by using the apps to stack sats. It's an amazing app to get someone totally new into Bitcoin. So if you want to join the fun, head to foldapp.com/Natalie and get 10,000 in free sats when you sign up. I think it's such an important message, especially given the conversations in Washington. And I think being such a secure network, this is why the US should adopt Bitcoin and embrace it strategically, especially given that everything is moving in that direction of cyber control or just cyber data being put into question with AI. And one analogy that I remember you saying that I thought was so meaningful, especially for people who are maybe intimidated by the idea of cryptography, is analogizing it to seals, wax seals. So hundreds of years ago, you would send a letter and you would know that it came from the person because of a wax seal and it wasn't broken. Do you want to speak to that at all? Just simplifying that that was the analog version of cryptography, and now we're in the digital version.
Sure. If you go to J.P. Morgan's library in New York City, you'll see that J.P. Morgan had a fascination with ancient seals. And he has a collection of these seals from thousands and some 3,000 years old. And they're little rollers. And 2,500 years ago, if you wanted to sign a document proving that it was authentic, you would create the document, you would you would seal it with clay or with wax or something, and then you would roll this roller over it, and that's like your private key. And the public key was the actual seal that anyone could authenticate with their eyes. And of course, it's easy to authenticate. It's the sign of the wolf. It's very hard to reproduce it because they're very intricate little rolling seals. And that's why J.P. Morgan was fascinated with it. Him being the greatest banker of the time, he's very interested in sealing authentic documents. Now, public key, private key cryptography, was the reinvention of that in a much more mathematically precise way thousands of years later. And that's the basis of the Bitcoin network. And partly, the first part of it is, how do I seal something with my private key? And the other part of the Bitcoin network is in, how do I inscribe that transaction on a decentralized network that is immutable, that is tamper-proof? And Bitcoin represents that network today. And the security of that Bitcoin network, it comes from a number of things. One thing is the highly decentralized nature of the nodes that store that blockchain. The second thing that secures a network is the network of Bitcoin miners. And the Bitcoin miners represent digital power. They are generating 350 exahash of digital power right now. They take raw energy between 10 and 15 gigawatts of energy, and then they modulate it through SHA-256 ASICs, or custom semiconductor chips, custom silicon. And when they actually run the raw electricity through the custom silicon, they convert analog energy into digital energy, or in this case, analog power to digital power. The significance of the digital power is that custom silicon is 2,000 times more efficient than general purpose CPUs. So the Bitcoin network is the world's most secure cyber network because it is backed by the greatest amount of digital power in the world. This custom silicon that is machined and engineered for one purpose, which is to secure a messaging network and a cyber network. So the Bitcoin mining network in the world represents digital power, and to the extent that that network continues to grow, it creates the most secure computer network in the world. If I obviously, if I had 1 exahash, if I had 1/350th as much of this hash rate, it would be much easier to crack this network or to interfere or interdict the transactions. But as the hash rate grows, we build a wall of encrypted energy, and all of the Bitcoin network is in essence protected by that wall of encrypted energy. And your ability to send a message and to transact on the network is protected by that shield of digital power. Every single year it grows. One of the most important things about that network is to protect it from an attack from commodity computing power or commodity analog power. You don't want someone with 10 gigawatts of electricity to be able to attack you, and you don't want someone with 10 million CPUs to be able to attack you. And so the elegant solution that Satoshi came upon was to combine analog energy with customized digital computation. And the result of that is extreme cybersecurity. Now, if I think about national security and the future of the country, if you have an army, you have land power, and an army will protect you from an attack via land. If you have a navy, you have naval power, and naval power allows you to keep the sea lanes open, and you can pass a message from New York to London. There was a point at which we almost lost control of the navy, of the oceans during World War II and World War I, and it would have actually caused the toppling of especially the British nation. So naval power matters a lot. At some point during World War II, we realized that air power was going to be important, and the Germans lost control of the air, and the result was the entire war tipped against them. If you want to control air power, you need an air force. And airplanes have a lot of power in them, and the ability to deliver that power is what allows you to maintain control of your airspace. If you lose control of your airspace, you get bombed back to the Stone Age in about 2 to 4 days. And that happened during the first Gulf War, where Iraq lost control of their airspace and the US won the war very quickly. Now later on, in World War II, we realized that nuclear power mattered and the atomic bomb was created, and because the US mastered nuclear power first, we won the war in Japan in short order. It only took a matter of a few weeks for that war to end. Along came space, and we started to develop space power and satellites. And the significance of space power is if you can put a satellite in orbit, you can create a GPS system, and the GPS system controls targeting of munitions, and those munitions, of course, can almost win any conflict. So if you lose control of space, you lose control of GPS. And of late, Starlink has illustrated how important this is, because Starlink has provided broadband communications everywhere in the world off of satellites, and those satellites are, and the Starlink system is being used to control drones in the Ukraine war. So space power is really critical. Now, it seems that if we look at future conflicts are going to be fought by drones controlled by satellite connections.
Cyber attacks.
They're going to be fought by robot dogs with guns on their backs that with uplinks to satellites. And they're going to be fought by naval drones that are submarine, that are moving with munitions. It won't be armies, it won't be the airplanes with human operators. And what you can see is that future conflicts are going to shift to space power and drones that are controlled on the internet, and that means cyber power. And the significance of Bitcoin is Bitcoin is the world's greatest cyber defense system. If you have to authenticate and prove and message any given cyber system, you're going to need a system which is resistant to denial of service attacks by nation states.
Right.
And Bitcoin has proven that it is the one system that is resistant to denial of service attacks by nation state, which means that you're going to want a wall of digital energy, or in this case, you're going to want to have the greatest amount of digital power coming from those Bitcoin miners in order to defend your cyber systems, so that you can defend all of the things and all the messages that travel over those systems, which are going to control the future combatants and future wars. So you know, World War IV will be fought in cyberspace and perhaps in real space by who knows what instruments, maybe AI-driven vehicles. But in that environment, Bitcoin is more important than ever.
It's time for a quick break to hear these messages from my partners. First up, CrowdHealth, a Bitcoin alternative to health insurance. Health insurance costs can be sky high today, and you essentially send money every month to a massive corporation, the health insurance black hole, as I call it. And if you don't need any health care, you never see that money again, right? But if you do need to go to a doctor, you end up having to pay even more out of pocket, especially if you end up as one of the 20% of claims on average that aren't covered. With CrowdHealth, you pay a small monthly fee that goes into an account that you actually accrue over time and is yours to use or keep if you ever leave. You can even save that money in Bitcoin. CrowdHealth is all about community, and the community crowdfunds everyone's healthcare. So if something does happen or you have a doctor visit, CrowdHealth will negotiate down the medical bill much lower than what insurance would be, and then the community helps you cover it. And in return, you help others cover their needs. For more information, you can head to joincrowdhealth.com/Natalie. And if you use promo code Natalie, you get 6 months for $99.
Oh yeah, it makes me think of that analogy. I'm not sure which book this was in, but if you recall, the idea that Bitcoin is this bulletproof, massive, powerful shield, but it's guarding essentially a playground, because at the end of the day, Bitcoin is very simple and open source at its roots. It's a very simple technology, and yet we've built something incredible around it, and the companies are building incredible things around it. Like you mentioned, it's going to empower so many applications. I know your team already cryptographically signs emails, but what else is MicroStrategy doing with Lightning?
Yeah, our view of Lightning is a chance for us to introduce some really compelling new enterprise applications. One enterprise application is enterprise rewards for your employees or for your customers or for your partners. So companies right now spend billions of dollars rewarding their employees. What if we could give people instant employee rewards for filling out surveys, being at the meeting, engaging in corporate systems, updating community notes, et cetera, all sorts of microtransactions. We've created with MicroStrategy Lightning the ability for you to plug a module into your enterprise and instantly generate a Lightning wallet for every one of your employees. If you have 200,000 employees, in 1 hour, you could generate 200,000 Lightning wallets or Bitcoin wallets. Then we convert every enterprise email address into a Lightning address. So whatever email address you've been using for the past 20 years now is a Lightning receiver that flows into your Lightning wallet. And now we've integrated all of the systems that companies use, like its learning system or community system or email system or Zoom system, right into that Lightning rewards module, so that when you show up to your Zoom, you get Satoshi reward. And if you show up on time, you get the reward, but if you're 5 minutes late, you don't. So I found whenever I have a meeting on Zoom, I make it a point to not be late because I actually want the Satoshi reward. It does work, you know? Even to me, it absolutely works. I mean, like, you just don't want to miss out on Satoshis. So we've looked at it as a chance to drive employee engagement and give employee benefits, but we also see it as a chance to drive customer engagement, because companies spend billions of dollars on digital advertising, and they give it to Google or Facebook or run all sorts of other ads. And the idea of the ad is, I spend a lot of money to put a banner ad to get people to click so that they'll fill out a survey or so they'll sign up for an account. Well, why not just give the money directly to the customer or directly to the prospect? So one of the nice things about what we're doing with Microstrategy Lightning is, let's say you're Amazon and you have 150 million accounts. You can also plug that into your directory and generate 150 million Bitcoin wallets, and you can convert every Amazon account login into a Lightning address. So now I could just send to you at your Amazon address, whatever that is, that becomes a Lightning address. And then, of course, if you fill out a book review, Amazon can give you Satoshis. And if you fill out a survey applying for an Amazon credit card, they can give you Satoshis. And if you get approved, they can give you more Satoshis. And if you fill out some kind of product review and it gets 100 upvotes, they can give you 100x more Satoshis. So it's a way to reward customers, it's a way to attract prospects, it's a way to gamify and make fun things, and it's a way to enhance a product by putting this long tail of Satoshis and building it into your product, so you don't just have a one-time integration or interaction with your customer. You've got a continuing monetary relationship with the customer. And the thing that makes it all possible is microtransactions and streaming via the Lightning Network, because we can do this in a second. We can do it for a 1/30th of a penny. And of course, we've integrated it with all of the tools enterprises use, like JavaScript, and they can use all their existing applications. They can use their Salesforce apps, their Adobe apps, their Microsoft Office apps. We've integrated it with their directories at scale. And so the goal of Microstrategy is we're going to give our thousands and thousands of enterprise customers a module so they can safely and securely deploy all sorts of compelling monetary applications to their employees, customers, partners, and prospects, so that they can make their products and services better and delight their user base.
And critical for corporations is building on that ethical and compliant base layer, which is obviously Bitcoin. Where I want to wrap up is, I think that there's going to be some developments on the regulatory front that bring more clarity, and it's all going to be good for Bitcoin, right? As things are recognized as securities, Bitcoin is going to be where a lot of capital potentially moves. Now, is Bitcoin ready for that? Is Bitcoin ready for a deluge of people coming from stable coins or different crypto platforms and all piling into Bitcoin as the safety asset? And what will that mean for the network?
I think the good news there is Bitcoin is ready for it. In order to be the open, permissionless, ethical protocol for monetary transactions on a global basis, you need to be a commodity, an asset without an issuer. And that's what Bitcoin is, due to the legacy of Satoshi. But if you want to be technically sound, you need to be an extremely well-engineered decentralized protocol. And so Bitcoin is extraordinarily well-engineered with that stable block size capped at the 4 megabytes. At the 10-minute block frequency has proven to be very stable. The extremely decentralized node network and the extremely well-developed Bitcoin mining network creates a very, very stable, sound base to run a digital monetary network. $20 billion or more has been invested just in the hardware that runs the Bitcoin mining network, and it has had 14 years to diffuse, to mature. It's gone through its growing pains. The block size wars were important growing pains. All of the generations of ASIC miners, from first the CPUs, then GPUs, then the early ASICs, then the second generation, then the third generation, now the fourth generation or more. All of those things were important to making it the technically sound base. And then finally, you need the economically sound basis for the global monetary network. And the economically sound basis was delivered to us via Satoshi's protocol when Satoshi capped the amount of Bitcoin at 21 million and gave us this beautiful halving protocol of cutting the block rewards in half every 4 years, right? And that last piece can't be understated, because you can theoretically create a digital commodity, a Doge coin, if it was theoretically decentralized, or some other cryptocurrency. But if you don't cap it at 21 million, and if you're not sure that it's truly decentralized and no one can ever break that cap, what you've got is a digital commodity which is going to increase in supply from time to time, like Dogecoin increases in supply. You don't have digital scarcity. And a digital commodity is better than an analog commodity. I would rather have $1 billion of a digital oil than $1 billion of oil. But a digital scarcity is better than a digital commodity, because what I'd really rather have is something, I don't want digital gold, I want digital gold where you can't make any more gold ever, right? And gold isn't that. You can find infinite gold in the universe. So I want something which is not digital gold. I want a digital sequentially numbered 21 million gold coins and no more forever. So I don't think anybody could, in the first 12 months of Bitcoin, say, we're sure it's ready. But I think that after years and years, and after 14 years of seasoning, we now have enough experience to say, yeah, it stood the test of time, it is ethically sound, it is technically sound, and it is economically sound. And that Bitcoin base layer is at this point robust enough to hold $10 trillion of monetary energy, or $100 trillion of monetary energy, or $500 trillion of monetary energy. And we have cracked the code on that. That's going to work well. All of the interesting development is now going to take place on the layer 2s and the layer 3s. And there's going to be an explosion of interest in protocols. The most successful, of course, right now is the Lightning Protocol, and we think the Lightning Protocol is going to be the dominant layer 2 protocol. But it's not impossible to create other layer 2 protocols that are open and permissionless. And some other open source developers will probably work on that. And then the layer 3 applications, like Cash App, like Strike, like Microstrategy, like all the crypto exchanges, they're going to continue to develop, and they're going to interoperate. And I think that the functionality, the speed, the performance the world needs will find its way onto layer 2 and layer 3s. The integrity and the robustness and the fault tolerance and the immutability that will come on the layer 1. And the world is now it's waking up to the real promise of Bitcoin in a way that it never has before, and the next 10 years should be a lot more exciting than the last 10 years.
Right, that's right. Bitcoin up 70% or so this year, regional banks down 30%, and as there's more demand for Bitcoin, more adoption, more lightning nodes will happen, more channels will open up, and that will facilitate all of that activity. Michael, thank you so much for hosting us, for having me at this conference. I'm always super grateful, and one thing I have to commend you on is everyone that I meet at Microstrategy is not only very, very smart and obviously successful and driven, but so kind, so nice and humble. And I really appreciate your team. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Coin Stories. Again, hit like on the video and make sure that you have those notifications on so you don't miss out on any new episodes. And I would love to hear from you. If you have suggestions, feedback, guest requests, please email me at natalie@talkingbitcoin.com. Thanks so much.